Hello, everyone, and welcome to our podcast. I'm Danny, and today Great.com talks with Roland Mendoza, the Vice Chair of GAPA, the GLBTQ plus Asian Pacific Alliance. And we have another special guest today. It is Mix Kiki Crunch, one of GAPA's winners for its pageant event. We're going to talk about that just in a bit. But before, if you haven't heard of them yet, their mission is to unite families, and allies to build a community through advocacy, inclusion, and love. If you're new here to this podcast, remember to press subscribe on YouTube or in your podcast app. Now, hi, Rowland, and hi, Kiki. Welcome.
Hi, Danielle. Thank you for having us.
It's a
Hi,
pleasure.
Danielle.
It's really a pleasure to have both of you here today. I think we're going to be able to have a great overview about the wonderful work that GAP has been doing, either from more an organizational perspective, but also from the community perspective, right? So this is going to be really great. I'm going to begin by referring to your page, if you guys don't mind, because I loved that on your front page says, seen, heard, and celebrated since 1988. And I think this is a beautiful statement here. Problem, let's begin with history, right? So it all began in 1988. What happened then? What inspired the creation of GAPA?
Well, first off, thank you for the opportunity for, having both me and Kiki here to be interviewed and just talk about GAPA. So GAPA, like you mentioned, and as you read upon, it was established back in 1988. And it was established by a group of members, purely, I would say, gay Asian men who was longing to have a support group, just to bring the API community together. So it was mostly like catered to gay Asian men at that time. But throughout its kind of in conception, it has grown through the years to be an organization that advocated for not only queer API men, but also the trans community and vice versa. And the organization has, like I mentioned, evolved. It's been like a stepping stone, not to only raise the voices of the community, but also, highlight the different diverse cultural and the heritage of each individual in San Francisco. And I would say it also been like a inspiration for other organizations that is queer API led in the United States and the world.
This is beautiful. Roland, I think ever since we began our LGBTQ plus series here in the podcast, two things always popped out. One that is the word community. It's often there, more often than any other types, let's say, organizations that we have here. Uh, and the very concept of the intersectionalities, right? That we have when we are talking about LGBTQ plus organizations. And I think in this case, it's important to us to highlight that we are talking here about gay Asian Pacific Islander community, right? And
Mhm.
this brings very unique challenges. Maybe we could talk about this a bit more. What is your community facing right now? What do you see as the most pressing issues or challenges that are driving your work in GAPA?
I would say the pressing issues would be just keeping our community safe. There's been in recent years, kind of like the rise of violent hate crimes against the Asian and Pacific Islander community, especially towards our elderly LGBTQ folks. And one ways that GABA has been, trying to ensure that our community is safe is by partnering with other similar organizations within San Francisco and beyond, working with organizations such as the San Francisco Community Health Center, who's been a longtime partner and was more like a organization that we've helped grow into what it is, as it was formerly known as the API Wellness Center, and really tackling, different forms of hate crimes by um, raising awareness, mobilizing the community, bringing the community together through a rally, and just raising our voices that we as a community will not be kind of like silent, and we will raise our voices to pertaining issues such as hate and violence, and we will not tolerate these kind of areas to our community members.
I think it's very, very important to highlight that, Roland. And it's quite interesting to think that you mentioned about hate towards the elderly members of your community. And, you know, it touches in such different aspects of ourselves as a bigger community, right? Not just as part of LGBTQ culture, but, you know, a society as in a whole. So it's crazy. Now, I want to change the tone a little bit and bring Kiki to the conversation because we have her here. And I think this is a great opportunity for us to talk about something that you mentioned as well, Roland, that is this cultural aspect of it, right? So first things first, Kiki, let's talk about the pageant, right? It's called Runaway. And what is it about? What is the history with it? What is its importance? I think there are a lot of aspects to it.
Yeah, thank you so much, Danielle, for that question. And I would just love to put an emphasis to the word community, especially you've mentioned earlier that you've been hearing this word whenever you're with the LGBT folks. Community matters within the queer community because most of us, if not some of us, are pushed away from our family. We're like um they banned us and all, they disown us and all that. So community within the LGBT community is very important because it gives us the sense of belongingness. It gives us the sense of family, where a family who accepts us for who we are. And so this is why it's very important in us that we foster this type of relationship and belongingness by building a community because we are experiencing that, or we are living that in real life because we lack that in our real family. So we're building that in our own capacity, in our own ways, in our own resources to make each other feel that we are safe together with other people who identifies or like who are in the same spectrum as us. And so yeah, about the runway, there are two major events of GAPA every year, and one of them is Runway, which is a pageant. It's also like one of the longest running GLBT API pageant, if not in the United States, in the whole world. And I am just very honored to be the current title holder for this pageant. And what happens during this pageant is that it's just so magical. It's so magical when I experienced it last year, more so winning it. It is an opportunity for the members of the LGBT, API LGBT community to showcase their talents, their wits, their sense of beauty, their style, and all that. And of course, the sense of community. Because mind you, there are a lot of attendees in this event, and it's always just a breath of fresh air to see the members of the community coming together and celebrating each other, uplifting one another through the talents that the contestants share to the stage. And it also happens in a very, very nice theater here in San Francisco. It's held in a theater called Herbs Theater, which is around the Civic Center area. And aside from that, what I like about this pageant is that it started, I think, 2, 3 years ago, where the organization itself initiated that there shouldn't just be Mr. and Miss, but it's also should be open to mix, meaning it should also be open to non-binary people or queer people. And we are not just limiting ourselves to the binariness of the gender that we are used to knowing, and or we are used to like hearing, like the Mr. and then Miss. So we have also like mixed GAPA. GAPA short for the GLBTQ Asian and Pacific Alliance. So yeah, and this year's runway is gonna happen so soon. It's gonna be next month, September 14th, and I am just so excited. We had our first rehearsal last weekend, and I can already like tell that the contestants are very excited for it. The community is making every member of the community, every member who's part of the organizing committee, including the contestants, are really putting their efforts, time, and resources for this event to be successful.
You guys must be really excited and ready for it. It looks like it has the glam, right? That we need to. So it everything related to this pageant, this gala is organized by GAPA, right? So it really takes a lot of internal effort to keep this in traction, in action, right? Maybe Roland, what other activities do you guys have there that are really about getting community together, fostering this sense of maybe heritage, if you think about it as well? So what goes on?
You know, aside from GAPA, which is one of our, again, like you mentioned, our longest kind of running event since 1988, we have other different programs. So we have GAPA Theater, which kind of gives an opportunity for queer and trans API individuals to showcase and tell their story. Maybe a story about, coming out or coming to terms with their identity or confronting their family members and just sharing the journey of, self-realization and so forth. And we have GAPA Chorus or the GAPA Men's Chorus, and it's a collection of different queer men who come together to sing different Asian languages. So from Korean or Japanese to Tagalog or Cantonese or Mandarin or Hawaiian. It's a showcase of different, songs. And it's very moving because I also have been part of the GAPA Men's Choir in a couple months ago, and having that opportunity to sing in different languages is very moving because when we do performances, right, into different communities that doesn't have a large Asian or Pacific Islander presence. And when they hear kind of like songs from the maybe growing up, it's very touching, reminds them of home and so forth. So I would say GAPA Theater and GAPA Choir is one of the two programs that we have that can touch base on like the heritage and the culture. Aside from that, we've had used to do like support groups where we would touch base on maybe the sectionality or intergenerational of maybe folks who has been doing this type of work, the activism work, um, like since the beginning of GAPA to maybe the younger generation who continues to do the grassroots work, mobilizing, empowering their community members, bringing up um, kind of advocacies that really is affecting the community, but is comes close dear to our hearts, right? So I would say GAPA has a lot of different programs, on a cultural level, through performing arts per se. We also have a political action committee, so advocating on like on a political level, for instance, queer API individuals who want to run for office and wants to provide presence for the Asian community at a political level and so
It's really, really comprehensive. I loved it.
forth.
Yeah, no, and I think there's such value in virtue when organizations really go to arts, and performing arts as a way to engage with the community, to spread their message, to show themselves through who they really, really are. And it is really powerful and can be so moving and engage so much. So yeah, it's beautiful, really beautiful to hear. Um, I want to go a little bit off script with you, Kiki,
Yeah.
if you don't mind, because I know that reading a bit about you, about your profile, I know that advocacy is an important issue, is an important aspect to you. And since Roland brought this about the younger generations getting more engaged and getting more involved in activism and so on. One important thing that we still need to discuss when talking about our community is healthcare, right? Especially for individuals living with HIV, and in the United States, we know that it's complicated. It's quite costly to have access to medications, to physicians and all of this. So maybe you could bring some light into what is going on and what steps could we be taken to change things to maybe achieve a moment where all of us could have easy access to medication, to treatment, and to just the basic care that we need.
Um, that is a good question, and it's something that's really close to home. And the community here in San Francisco and the people here whom I know that I am very open about my HIV status. I am a person living with HIV, and it's something that I'm not ashamed of. It's part of my advocacy, and I want people to be educated about um, what is it like, or what is the condition like as someone living with HIV. Over and over again, since the HIV and AIDS outbreak in the 80s and then the 90s, where there were a lot of people uh, who passed away because of the disease. I want to share that right at this moment, living with HIV or having HIV or getting diagnosed with HIV is not a death sentence. It's not. It's not a death sentence. Science and technology provided us already with medications and care that would help an individual living with HIV live a healthy, holistic, and healthy life. And in the case of San Francisco, I am an immigrant, by the way. And when I got here, there are a lot of organizations, community-based organizations, who helped me get access to HIV medication and care. And it was through the San Francisco AIDS Foundation that I got access to my medication, my HIV medication, and also my health insurance. And it is important to talk about this stuff and share about this stuff because the community-based organizations are the ones who help those who don't have access yet or who don't have the resources yet to help themselves get better or be better. And so when there are issues about budget cuts or issues about like diminishing the funding for the different community-based organizations who are spreading the information or knowledge about HIV in terms of like prevention and also in terms of like care and in terms of like um, giving linking the clients or folks to these resources. We make sure to take a stand and we make sure that our voices are being heard, that cutting the funding in terms of like HIV care and medication would not help the community. It wouldn't help. It wouldn't bring anything beneficial to the community. What we need is to, continue this funding so that we can help more people. And the other bigger organizations too, such as the San Francisco Community Health Center, and also the other organization I mentioned earlier, San Francisco AIDS Foundation. These organizations are very mindful and helpful in giving out resources for prevention of HIV, for HIV care, and even for linking people through the resources that they need to be able to live in a decent way, for the lack of better term. So these things that are very relevant to the queer community, like the sexual health, is very important to talk about. That's why we also do a lot of um, awareness, HIV awareness events and HIV prevention awareness events, because they are out there. The medications are out there. We have the pre-exposure prophylaxis, which is commonly known as PrEP. It helps prevent getting exposed to it lowers your risk of getting exposed to HIV. We also have the post-exposure prophylaxis and all that. All these resources are out there and ready to be accessed by the members of the community. But we need to make sure that we put the word out there, because knowing your status, knowing about all this stuff makes you more um open about it, and it helps destigmatizing people, whether they're part of the queer community or the straight community. It helps the whole community to learn more about this stuff.
Absolutely. And thank you for sharing your story and all of those insights. They are really important, as I said, to break stereotype, to, break stigma and help us really achieve a different point, a different status on talking about it and finding better solutions. So I really appreciate it, Vicky. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Daniel. And also I would just like to add to that aside from going to the streets, or like having a petition signed by a lot of members of the community, we also make sure to continue our dialogues with our public officials, and make sure that the message that we want them to hear will be put into paper, so that it will protect it will protect the community. We don't only operate through the word of mouth, but we need to have make sure that this is converted, or like converted into law, or legal, or this resources that we need, or the funding that we need, will be put into paper, so that it will be accessible to the members of the community.
Uh, I want to talk now about the future. Since you brought this, Kiki, you brought to us this perspective, this moment of looking to the future. So, Roland, what would be the next steps for GAPA now? What are your plans?
I think for the next steps is definitely, continuing on with our advocacy work, through the means of, destigmatizing against like any forms of stigma regarding HIV, or utilizing of substances, our advocacy work in combating hate and violence amongst the API community, but also continue to raise awareness and visibility for our queer and transgender community members. I would say definitely our trans community, because oftentimes they are the ones that um you know may go through different challenges. It could be during their transition, um being comfortable in their own skin and their body. But aside from that, definitely looking to the future of advocating our community members to take part in voting in the next election, especially in the United States. Our next election is in November, and we are trying to advocate our community members to really choose a candidate that can really provide visibility to not only our community, but also um, advocate for like the middle class and the working class of the United States. So I would say those areas is some of the aspect that as GAP as an organization we will continue advocating for as we look into the future, because these are some important areas to continue to talk about, especially um empowering and inspiring um, new generations, especially the youth. You know, I know our youth is the one that will continue to um, pass on the torch, especially as we continue to pave paths for many folks who may be coming into their identity, newly into, as a queer person of color and so forth.
No, Raul, in light of all that you said and this beautiful vision that you guys have for the future, uh, what would be the best ways for listeners right now or your people in your community to get involved and help GAPA keep going?
Thank you for the question. I think, to just support GAPA per se, definitely donate to the organization. I think as a nonprofit organization that is all volunteer based, we have volunteer based board members and we have a membership, you know, every support from our community members to help us continue with our advocacy of, making sure that the API community is seen, heard, and celebrated is very worthwhile. It will allow us to continue to create sustaining and impactful programs for our community members. Um, and I think another way for other folks to, support GAPA is also considering maybe um, joining the board of directors. We are constantly looking for individuals who has a passion to take leadership, to lead their community members through different forms, through maybe to the social aspect, or maybe in the political aspect, or raising awareness on maybe health or the wellness of our community members. So we are constantly looking for different individuals who share the same vision that GAPA possess, for our queer and trans API LGBTQ community.
Thank you so much, both of you, for joining in this conversation. I really liked it. Thank you, Kiki. Thank you, Roland. It was a pleasure.
Thank
And
you as
thank you for
well.
having us, Daniel. Thank you so much, everyone.
It was really, really a pleasure. And to everyone listening or watching us right now on YouTube, we had just this brief overview about them, but you can get much, much more information on their page, which is gapa.org. We're going to add the link on the description of the episode so you have no excuses not to click on it. You can get information, you can get in touch, you can help out, you can donate through their page. So, I mean, come on, it's super easy to find them and find them on social media and everything else. All right. Thank you for listening for this more episode. And remember, if you like this conversation, press subscribe on YouTube and your podcast apps. Share it with your family, with your friends, with everyone, like maybe co-workers, everyone you think could profit from this conversation, because we need to spread the word about the importance of GAPA. All right. Check out their page, help out if you can, and I see you in the next episode. Bye-bye.
Bye.